Good morning, good evening, hey everybody. I am David here. Welcome back to Chilling3000 Hangouts. Another episode here on as we're filming this on the 17th of January, but it will be up on the 18th of January 2023. And today we are doing our first interview of 2023. And today I am joined by my helper for today, Danny Lewis.
I'm sorry, David, but as of yesterday, I legally changed my name to Mike Richards.
Well, good for you.
Kevin, like that one? Yes, I'm glad to be back at the Chilling3000 studios for 2023 with another good interview. So, and sponsors tonight is Perrier Mineral Water, a French story since 1863. Because Kevin has his what brand is that, Kevin? I've seen it before. What's it? It's mirrored. Oh, Smart Water. Okay, yeah, it's mirrored, so I can't read it. But yeah, we got your Smart Water and you got your Perrier mineral water. So.
Well, today's sponsor for me is Pizza Hut. Hello there, Gary. And today we're interviewing the one and only Kevin Henry.
David, how are you?
Doing well.
Danny?
For those who don't,
I'm good as well.
so for those who don't know who Kevin is, he is a content creator. He's been doing YouTube for a couple of years now, and as he's getting to age around 50 years old or so, I'm not quite sure. But must be older than Brendan. I don't know.
Just by 2 months.
Kevin, just why don't you tell the folks how old you are for the record?
I just turned 39.
There you go.
Last month.
Yeah. Better than 69. Anyway, so Kevin, would you like to tell everybody about yourself?
Well, sure. As you alluded to, I've been a YouTuber now since about 2017. I have been a part of MVG Productions since, 2018. I drive a truck. I've been doing that for 17 years. I'm an ordained minister with Universal Life Church, which licenses me to be an interfaith minister, so I can do virtually any faith I want, or the faith requested by the parties. So I do that. I've driven Uber and Lyft in the past. Do it basically. It's a whatever I feel like, it sort of thing. There's no obligation to it.
Okay.
So that's what I do. I mean, I have other stuff I do for fun, but that's what I do.
Same with watching football.
Oh, yes.
Packers fan.
Absolutely. Go Pack, go.
Which you are a co-owner, I believe. Like, tell us how that works.
Part owner.
Tell us how that works.
Well, the Green Bay Packers are the only major league sports team in the U.S. that is a completely non-profit organization. The owners in the olden days decided to let the owners be the people, the fans, those who invest in shares. So the shareholders, and there are hundreds of thousands of them, actually own the team, and I'm one of them.
And it doesn't matter where you're from?
No. Not to my knowledge, anyway.
Because you're from Cincinnati, so...
Cincinnati, Queen City.
Yep. Big sports town, Cincinnati.
It is.
And only hopeful that you guys can get some more championships, because... but only time will tell.
Well, in reality, I think all the championships right now are going to the folks at the collegiate level, the University of Cincinnati especially. The runs that they have had in recent years, they have seen a lot of success. I'm not sure how much longer that's going to continue now that Luke Fickell has left Cincinnati for Wisconsin, which was a surprise move to me and to a lot of people, I think. The Cincinnati Cyclones is our minor league hockey team here. They've won a few Kelly Cups. And yeah, we've seen some championships around here, and of course the Bengals have had. They're currently defending their AFC championship right now, and they're as we're taping this 3 weeks away from potentially another Super Bowl. So we'll see what happens there. Good luck to the Bengals. But the Reds have not won a World Series championship since 1990.
Yeah. I mean, we all know about the big red machine, but 1990,
Absolutely.
that's the last time. Is the Cincinnati Bengals is like your second favorite team or something?
No,
Or
I support them, but I've never. I cannot lay claim to being a member of Houday Nation. I support them. I wish them the best. The only time I ever really talk any smack about them is when they play Green Bay, which only happens, I don't know, every 4 years or so, unless it's preseason. So beyond that, I really have no beef with the Bengals. They just were not my team when I became interested in the NFL.
Nice. All right, Danny, go ahead.
Mine's a two-parter. First one is, how did you get into game shows themselves, and then part two is, how did you get involved with the whole online game show playing community?
I started out. My interest in game shows actually started when I was very young. We're talking late '80s. When my late mother and I were able to have any kind of relationship when I was a child, we kind of had a set schedule, unless of course I was at school, and we had this schedule that, you know, she was a stay-at-home mom, so in the mornings we watched the morning game shows, and then she would watch the news, watch her soap operas. So the game show block, that was our time between 10 and noon. And it started out 10 a.m., Scrabble with Chuck Woolery. Bob Eubanks followed at 10:30 with Card Sharks, and then The Price is Right. That's how I initially got into it. And of course, the love of other game shows came about as time went by. But those were the three that's kind of how I got my baptism into game shows, if you will. It was those three. And then how did I get into the YouTube scene, you asked?
Yeah, because there was games on MVG and some other channels before then that you were involved with.
In 2016, I was doing what I had done for a number of years, and that was looking up old game show episodes on YouTube. And just by chance, I happened to see a recreation of Card Sharks hosted by Alex Paris. And I was not sure exactly how to take it when I first saw it, but I became a little more interested in it, and I sent in a YouTube comment asking to play, and he got in touch with me. I got to play. I won, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Very nice.
Yeah, and he's doing Military Sharks right now for 25. And Card Sharks, one of the most popular game shows of all time, and Jim Perry, great host.
Yeah, and I watched a couple episodes of Scrabble in a trade recently, and I got to watch that, which is it's a rare show. It's a good one.
How much you want for him, Danny?
I don't know.
I hope you charge less than Hasbro.
We'll go $5 maybe.
That's fair.
So, have you ever had any radio experience? Because I know you've done a lot of announcing and all that.
I was a radio personality from 2000 to 2005. I got my start at a local radio station in Georgetown, Ohio, which is in Brown County, at radio station 97.7 WAXZ. I got my start there when I was 16 after being discovered by a local pastor. And I started out as an intern, and of course they taught me how to broadcast on the radio and how to run the control boards and all of this. It's not as high tech as it is now. I mean, they had a real old school setup. I mean, you had to flip switches. There was hardly any button pushing. They had just gotten, interestingly enough, they had just gotten this their first computer with the computerized music and everything. So they had just switched out of flipping CDs around. So it was quite interesting. And of course, I had to learn how to present myself on the air and how to speak on the air, because back in those days, I had a bit of a Southern drawl, and believe it or not. And it took me a little while to drop that, because if you watch anyone on the news at any given point, any place in the country, particularly the South, you will notice that the reporters speak with a perfect dialect, no accent. And that's something I had to learn. And it was not easy. So I did that starting out. And then I DJ'd at that station for a few months. I left there, went to another radio station, WRAC in West Union, Ohio, also known as C103, the home of the cow. I was there. I know. I was their Friday night Southern Gospel DJ, which was a very interesting experience.
I'm sure that was Southern Gospel.
Southern Gospel, yeah. I'd never heard of it until then, and it's actually not that bad of music, no matter what you believe or not believe in. Then I took a little time off, graduated high school, went to school at the Ohio Center for Broadcasting in Cincinnati, which is no longer in existence by that name. It's now called the Ohio Media School. And did a lot of interning there, did some work for Clear Channel, did some work for each of the local television stations, 5, 9, 12, and 19. I also got to work with the Cincinnati Cyclones, as I mentioned before. Did a couple of weeks of Xavier Musketeers baseball. And I finally wound up at Cincinnati State. It was a junior college. Still is a junior college. And I called their play-by-play basketball, men's and women's, for 2 seasons.
Oh, college basketball, nice.
It was junior college. It wasn't NCAA. We treated it like it was, though.
Yeah. I mean, hey, guy, now it's in sports. You got to be proud of that.
That was always my dream.
And what made you want to go to radio?
When I was a kid, and anyone from Cincinnati who's my age can relate to this story. I had this big old radio about this big, this thick,
Yeah,
and had the big blue numbers on it, and I tucked that under my covers every night after I knew that my parents were not peeking in the bedroom to make sure I was asleep or not. I would turn on the radio to 700 WLW and listen to Reds baseball broadcast by Hall of Famers Marty Brennaman and Joe Nuxall. And as much as I love Marty and Joe, the duo, and anyone from Cincinnati knows that duo, you don't even have to give their last names. You say Marty and Joe in Cincinnati, they know who you're talking about. But Marty Brennaman is now my idol, and there's no one that I look up to more than him. I have other people that I look up to in the sportscasting industry, but no one has made a greater impression or impact on me than Marty Brennaman. And from the time I was a kid, I realized at an early age, despite the resistance I got, and there was a lot of resistance, that I wanted to be a broadcaster.
Hey, anybody could be in broadcasting these days. You just gotta practice. And you have any advice for those who want to get into broadcasting or radio? You have any advice?
I do. Commitment, absolute commitment. You can't just buy yourself a microphone, get on a computer, and say, "Hey, I'm a broadcaster." You really have to work at it. I strongly suggest going to school for it. There's trade schools for it, like the one I went to. It's also good to go to a local college to get your communications degree. Your English degree helps a lot. And you have to be absolutely 100% committed. It's basically the same as being in love, really. You have to be able to be as flexible as you possibly can. It's not an easy field to get into. It's not an easy field to break into. When I was in radio 5 years ago, I wasn't making much in terms of money, and that's part of why I had to leave the industry and do a job that paid better so I could be a better provider. But the best advice I would give them is be in love with the industry, hands down.
All your passion, all your effort.
It almost sounds cliche, but it's absolutely true. You have to commit yourself totally, or and don't dream too big in the beginning and expect those dreams to come true within a year or two, because if you have those high expectations and they wind up not happening, you're more than likely going to get frustrated and give it up. You have to be committed and pay your dues. It's very, very important. And also remember, you're not Howard Stern, you're not Walter Cronkite, you're not any of these big numbers, these big names at first. So commitment.
Vince Scully, he passed away last year.
Mm-hmm.
Just gotta, just give all your passion to it, and doing YouTube is about doing YouTube. Having that YouTube experience may help, but at the same time, you need to maybe listen to other radio broadcasters and learn from them.
I agree, and that's exactly what I've done. And I didn't listen to just Marty and Joe, but the bulk of my listening revolved around them. I've listened to other great broadcasters, and I don't mimic them. I don't copy them. I've picked up some of my dialogue and mannerisms from them, but I've modeled my style after a conglomeration of a lot of these people that I've looked up to for so many years.
My favorite radio announcer as for baseball is as for radio, Joe Castellon, who's been with the Red Sox for radio over 40 years, I think.
I remember him well, yes.
And he's and he's one of the best Red Sox announcers out there. He's still doing it. Hope he continue on for a few more years to come.
It's interesting that in 1981, Marty Brennaman had the opportunity to leave Cincinnati and go to the Red Sox, because the gentleman who owned the radio station in Boston that broadcast the Red Sox games also owned WLW in Cincinnati. And the owner of that station wanted Marty Brennaman to leave Cincinnati and go to Boston. And when Marty was given the opportunity, he couldn't pull the trigger. He turned it down and stayed in Cincinnati. And instead, they hired a fella by the name of John Miller, who's went on to become a Hall of Famer.
Interesting. It's not all about the money. It's about what you're comfortable with,
Within reason. I agree with that. Within reason.
Danny, you go next.
Okay. Well, Kevin, you said that on the side you're also drive for Uber and Lyft, right?
Yeah, sometimes.
So what's the funniest story from your experiences as a driver?
Oh, boy.
And if there's anything with it, David can bleep it. So feel free to be
I can clean it up. I can clean it up a little.
Okay.
There was this one time in Northern Kentucky, I went to this place called Dickman Sports Grill. Very popular place around here. And it's been suggested I go there to hang out and try their food, which I should do at some point because, I like a good grill, a good pub and grill. And I went to this place and I picked this gentleman up, okay? And he had 2 stops on his run, okay? And basically what it was a trip from Dickman's to his house. his house back to Dickman's. And when we get to his house, I am technically obligated to wait 5 minutes. If he's not ready to go by then, I have the option to then leave him there and go on about my day, or I can wait. He knew this apparently because he told me, he's like, well, I'm going to be a little longer than usual. I'll give you a cash tip. And he did. I think it was like $20. He's like, will you wait a little longer than usual? I was like, sure, why not? So as we're driving back to his house, I was like, well, what's up? What's going on? Why are we going to your house and back? Well, apparently he and his father were out golfing that morning, and he met this lady, an old lady friend of his, I suppose, and they agreed to get together at Dickman's later and have kind of like an impromptu date. So he wants to go home, shower up, and go back. I was like, okay, makes sense. And so I take him to his house, a very nice house, very nice, somewhat of a upscale neighborhood. And I'm waiting in the driveway, tip in hand. And
you gotta get the tip first, because otherwise he could have just.
Oh, no kidding. But anyhow, so he says 15 minutes. I was like, all right. But I'm not watching the clock to see that it's 15 minutes. But I do realize like 20 minutes later, I was like, all right, I need to call this guy. And he answers, and I don't think anything at the time, but he was like, oh, I'm really sorry, man. I'll be right out, I promise. I was like, okay. 25 minutes later, I call him up, and he's like, I'm sorry, man. I'll be done soon. I'm sorry. I was like, all right. 30 minutes later, I'm being as patient as I can be with this guy, and I'm a very patient guy. I called him up. I was like, all right, what are we doing here? And I thought I heard him say, I cut my foot. I think I need to go to the hospital. This will come back to play later in the story.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, what do you want me to do? He said, can you come in the house and look at it for me and see if you think I need to go to the hospital? And I was like, no, I'm not I can't come in your house unless you're dying. And he was like, well, how about I meet you at the front door? I was like, okay, that's fine. So I get out of my car. He opens up his door. And when he opens his door, he's got nothing on except a blood-drenched towel.
Oh, God.
And I was kind of taken aback by that at first. I looked down at his foot. I saw a patch of blood there, but it looked like it had already dried. And I was like, oh, no, it looks all right to me. He goes, no, not that. This. The man turns around, drops his towel, and before me lay a 2-inch wide gash on his left butt cheek where I thought he said he cut his foot. He cut his butt. And I told him that he needed to go to the hospital. It did not take a mentally challenged monkey to realize it was bleeding pretty good too.
Oh,
so my first instinct is to call 911 because he's bleeding out. I'm like, dude, you need a hospital. You need it yesterday. And he kept telling me, no, don't call 911. I've called my mother. She's on her way. Don't call 911. Don't call 911. Because apparently he didn't want to pay for the ambulatory fee or whatever, I guess, is over there in Kentucky. He promised me his mother was on his way. And instead of arguing with him, I said, can I at least give you my personal cell number so you can get a hold of me? Let me know you're okay, please. And he did that, gave me another $10 for waiting longer, and sent me on my way. The entire time, as I'm going about my day, I'm legitimately concerned about this guy. He calls me about, I don't know, 5 hours later from St. Elizabeth's and told me that, he was all right. He's been treated. He got stitched up and all this. And I was like, well, I appreciate you calling me. I don't know how you're going to explain this to that lady friend of yours because who would believe that? And I said, well, best of luck to you, man. I'm glad you're all right. As soon as I got off the phone and I knew he was okay, I was like, I'm telling everybody this story.
Yeah.
And I did, and everyone asked the same question that I did not know the answer to. How did that happen? And to this day, I still don't know. I've heard theories, some of which I agree with, but I'll never know exactly what happened. That's the funniest thing I ever saw.
I wonder how the date turned out. I wonder if he told the girl, maybe if he postponed it, or if he just told her, no, I cut my ass. And then she probably never said anything again.
I don't think, and the people that I've told this to, especially couples, because I get asked that question all the time, and I always tell that story. And if I have a couple, a man and a woman with me or whatever, I'll usually ask the woman, I said, ma'am, if you were told that by your boyfriend, would you believe that? She's like, no, I think you were lying. Who would believe that? I mean, that guy would have had to have called me up and said, hey, I need you to be a witness and tell this woman that this actually happened. I'd be like, and if that had ever happened, I'd be like, yeah, I'll tell her. But I mean, it's so bizarre. Yeah, right. It's so bizarre that I don't think anyone in their right mind would believe it. But I know it to be true.
Yeah.
Only God knows the full story.
Anyway, Kevin knows too. Anyway, okay, David. Let's go to the next question.
What are your favorite sport teams?
Well, I've already highlighted two: the Cincinnati Reds, of course, the Green Bay Packers. I'm also loyal to Buckeye Nation, Ohio State football, basketball. I used to be a hard-on fan of the Chicago Bulls during their run in the 90s, but I still check in once in a while to see how they're doing, but I'm not a hardcore fan like I used to be.
Ohio State. Ouch. What about favorite players on the teams?
Well, I'll start with the Reds. My favorite player during my lifetime would have to be Barry Larkin. He was an absolute fantastic shortstop. He's a Hall of Famer. He does some TV work now with the Reds and Bally Sports. I've had many other favorite Reds players. My favorite current Reds player would have to be, and I'm not sure if he's still with the Reds or not, but a kid named Michael Lorenzen. I really like him a lot. I mean, there's not many two-way players out there, and he's a pitcher and a fielder. I mean, and the guy can hit like nobody's business. I'm not sure if he's still with the Reds or not, but anyway. The Green Bay Packers, my all-time... Pardon?
Ohtani is basically the king of that right now, so...
Oh, yeah, Shohei Ohtani. Yeah, the kid's going places. He'll be in Cooperstown one day. Is the Green Bay Packers... well, the first name that comes to mind is Reggie White. I used to be a big Reggie White fan, and I was heartbroken when he passed away. Brett Favre, obviously. Aaron Rodgers, of course. I'd say more recent. Jeopardy. My favorite. Pardon me?
They were joking because Aaron Rodgers hosted Jeopardy for a week or so.
He did. He did a great job. I'd say currently my favorite Packer is Christian Watson. He just had a great rookie year, and he's going places, I believe. Then if you shift gears to Ohio State, we're talking all time here, really. I would say my favorite Buckeye football player would have had to have been Maurice Clarett. Liked him a lot. I liked Ezekiel Elliott when he was with the Buckeyes. Craig Krenzel was a great quarterback. C.J. Stroud. I mean, I could give you quite a few names there. Troy Smith, great quarterback. The list goes on and on. As far as the basketball team goes, gee whiz. I like Greg Oden, Jared Sullinger. Right now, I like this kid named Ice Likely. I'm sure I screwed that up. And Zed Key, two very good basketball players. So those would be my favorite players from each of those teams.
Right now, I really like for the Celtics, Jason Tatum, number 0.
I did not. I forgot to mention the Chicago Bulls. Yes, obviously Michael Jordan. And at the risk of starting some controversy on this channel, he will always be above LeBron James. Always.
Thank you. LeBron James stinks.
No, he does not stink. He's just not better
know.
than Michael Jordan.
This is that the time when he talked about Boston fans, but that's a different story for another time. We're not going to go there. Danny, go on.
Kevin, so do you have any favorite comedians?
Comedians, a few actually. The first one that comes to mind is Jeff Foxworthy. The recently retired Bill Engvall. Big fan. Love Bill Engvall. Ron White, I got to see him in person once. In recent years, I've been a fan of one Frank Caliendo.
Oh, I know him. He was from Mad TV. He does a lot. He did a lot of good impressions of various celebrities on Mad TV over the years.
I mean, nobody does a better impression than of John Madden and Frank Caliendo. I mean, there's quite a few I like. I like Gary Owen. That dude. If you've not seen him talk about Cincinnati, he's also from Cincinnati. If you've not seen his Showtime special that he did here in Cincinnati, talking about being black famous, you've got to check it out. It is hilarious. I lost my mind watching that show. Very funny gentleman, and I'd love to meet him one day. So, yeah, that's a few. There's others I'm sure I like, but those are the few that I can highlight.
Yeah. For me, highlights would be Gilbert Gottfried, Jerry Seinfeld, more recently Norm Macdonald, and
he's not recent.
Well, no, I mean because I just recently got into his jokes and podcasts.
Okay.
And then because he passed away about a year ago, and then
yes, he did.
Jeff Dunham, the ventriloquist.
Oh, Jeff Dunham, absolutely.
All right. So the next question is, what is your favorite game of all time? You had to pick one.
That's tough because I'm
not sure if anybody knows this, to be honest.
I've seen so many of them. To pick one would be a gargantuan task, really. I can probably tell you the ones I like the most in no particular order. Price is Right, Wheel. I've become a bigger fan of Jeopardy in recent years, which I was not really into until about 2004. Press Your Luck. Card Sharks. I used to be a pretty big fan of Russian Roulette on GSN. I really like that show.
Yeah, that's a classic.
Yeah.
But to say that I have one favorite, that's hard for me to answer. All I can do is give you the ones that I gave.
Can you guess what Eric Nemo's favorite game show is?
Bullseye.
Gotcha.
So I thought it would have been 1 versus 100 because Eric always says do it for Bob Saget, but
yeah, it depends. All right, Danny.
All right. Now, Kevin, when we were doing those shows for your channel WKPH in Cincinnati, which let's briefly tell the folks that WKPH is a homage to another fictional sitcom about a radio station called WKRP in Cincinnati, which was on in the 70s.
That's correct.
Okay. So, Kevin, how did you go about choosing which games to do as series for the channel? Because you had Gold Rush, you had Press Your Luck, and Lingo. So, how did you go about picking those?
Well, to be honest with you, I had not planned on doing any more hosting after I did I did a season of Super Millionaire before the inception of WKPH. I had a YouTube channel back then, which is now defunct, called Power Couple Productions.
Mhm.
And then I started a second season of Millionaire, and it ended very controversially. After that, I didn't want to host anymore. And then I was kind of talked into it again during the pandemic
Okay. Yeah.
Uh,
because I had a real bad experience during that period in my lifetime between 2019 and 2020. During the pandemic, I was kind of encouraged to get back into the saddle, and so I thought, maybe I'll do a couple of pilots, see what sticks, see what people like, see what people don't like. And I did pilots
Cool.
for Card Sharks. I did Press Your Luck. I did High Rollers. I did Lingo. I did Scrabble, and I did a pilot of Press Your Luck. And one of the driving reasons I went ahead with that series was because that garnered more interest than any other show that I've ever done, including what I'm doing now.
I was
Uh,
on there actually.
Pardon?
I was on the pilot episode actually.
Yes,
Press
you
Your Luck.
were. And it garnered a lot of interest, especially from YouTube. Um, and I had a young man from North Carolina who wanted to play, and I set him up, and he actually went on to become our season 1 champion. So that was a very, very special run. In fact, Danny was a part of that too. Now that I think about it,
Press your
and,
luck.
Tell us
Yeah.
how you tell us how you came up with the playoff tournament. Like, tell us how you came up with it.
the for Press Your Luck.
Yeah.
Oh, that was easy. I did 3 semifinal playoffs, pitting top seeds versus lower seeds. The winner of each would go to the finals, and then we did we stole a page out of the Jeopardy Goat playbook,
Mhm.
where in the first of 3 victories was the grand champion of it all.
Okay. Back to what you were saying about the other shows.
And then I was going to do Scrabble, believe it or not. I don't know how many know about this. None of the episodes made it to air, but we had some problem with getting new material. It was all
Okay.
recycled stuff everybody knew. So when I filmed a couple of episodes, people already knew the words, and I thought they were
Yeah.
cheating, but it turns out it's the same stuff over and over again, and it's been played so much that everybody knows the words. So
Yeah.
And so I decided to shove it. I was like, what am I going to do in its place? And my old pal Brandon Scruggs got a hold of me and he said, Duolingo. Duolingo. It's real easy, real fast. You can knock those out in no time.
Oh
I
yeah.
was like, okay. So I rehearsed it a little bit, and lo and behold, turned out to be an easy show to do. And we did it for 1 season.
Mhm.
And another popular Deal or No Deal.
Oh, yes.
That's like your most popular game show you ever done.
Yeah. um, I've seen players, I should say, I've seen YouTubers do games of Deal or No Deal by themselves and other games by themselves, like Price is Right, the video game. They played that by themselves.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, I'll dabble into that a little bit. Easiest one to do is Deal or No Deal. And one of my first episodes that I did of Deal actually garnered over 20,000 views, went viral. Only because
Crazy.
at the end of the game, I was down to the 5,750,000 and 1,000,000, and I played a perfect game, and no one had ever seen that at any point in the globe, and it went viral. It was amazing. So I still do it. I have fun doing it, and just a little entertainment, and it's easy to produce.
I do Deal or No Deal a lot of time, as I probably know, and my most like shocking Deal or No Deal moment would have to be when I did a call-in stream, and I decided why not just have Lucas on, to play for the jackpot because I've done a jackpot series on my Chilling3000 Hangouts. So that year, and I decided to add him on, and he picked case number 13, and it had the $4.6 million. I could not believe it. We all went crazy,
And didn't
and
he
Gary
win?
he won,
He won.
and then Gary came on. Was mad that Lucas won because he didn't want him to get it. It was just crazy, and it was just a moment I'll never forget. And the end of the year was one of the most exciting games of all time, I think.
I agree.
Then continue on with the next question.
Well, before we move on to the next question, Kevin, you said the young guy from North Carolina. Am I thinking of Sean?
You are.
Okay, yeah.
Rest
Rest in peace, Sean. He joined us in late 2019 and then passed away in his sleep, I believe, in late 2020. Yeah, it was unexpected to all of us, and he was always fun to be around. So, Sean, if you're out there, we're gonna keep playing the games for you. So,
yeah.
Anyway, next question. What do you have planned, if anything, for the WKPH channel for this year?
Nothing. As I've mentioned on my page, I'm stepping down as host of Gold Rush after next season.
Okay.
I am looking to do some other stuff with my life. It's been a hell of a run, and but I'm still going to be around doing projects. I'm still going to be an admin at MVG. I'm still going to do all this stuff, but there's other stuff I want to do with life. And my focus will be now. If you ask me this question next year, I may have a better answer for you. But this year, my only focus is on Gold Rush. I got this season to finish videotaping. We're almost done. And then I've got one more season to tape for the 23-24 season. And then I'm going to hand back the keys and say, thanks for the opportunity. It's been a great 4 seasons as host. I'm done with that show after that.
I'm probably going to be emotional during your phone, so.
I've chosen really not to think about it too much, really. My focus is to entertain the masses. And, I don't want to get too sentimental or maudlin for that matter. Thinking about it.
You just had to move on to other things, basically.
Exactly. I mean, I'm choosing not to think about it way too much. I mean, I can talk about it a little tonight because this is an interview. But moving forward, I mean, I don't plan on thinking about it that much. But I know the day will come, but it's not here yet.
How did Gold Rush started, by the way?
In terms of how did the show start, or what?
Yeah, like how you started on WKPH for Gold Rush.
Okay. Doing then what I'm going to be doing again here before too long. I was kind of screwing around, dealing, shuffling through a lot of projects. Like, what's going to be, what would I do good? What would I host well? And I did Gold Rush just kind of on a whim. And Brandon Scruggs saw me do that. Or he heard about it. I'm not sure if he actually saw me do it. He may have been in the studio. I can't remember. But I filmed a pilot just to kind of have on reserve if I ever decided to do it for WKPH in the future. And he gets a hold of me and he says, Kev, why don't you do that for my channel? And I was like, you host Gold Rush. And he was like, I know, but I got other stuff I want to do. I have other stuff people want me to do. And I can't host everything. So I think you'd be a perfect fit. Why don't you do it for our show, for our channel? And I thought about it. Didn't take me long to call him back and say yes. And I done it. I'm into my 3rd season right now. Next year, as mentioned, will be my last.
What has been like your most memorable moment from that show?
Oh, goodness. I'd have to say back in and before I answer this, let me just say that I do not want to discount the other memories because they all have specific meaning to me. But I would say the most memorable moment would have to be when Shedrick Weatherspoon hit our first and only mother load back in season 3. He found $25,000 3 times, his first 3 selections, after Brandon professed it would never happen. It did happen, and he ate his hat for the rest of the season. It was some kind of moment, and I've gone back to watch that a time or two, and on a personal note, and this is not about me, on a personal note, I was proud of myself by how professional I kept my stuff together as host, because that is not easy to do in an exciting situation like that. But I showed my excitement through my voice and emotions, but I was able to keep it professional throughout, and I'm proud of
that. Very nice, and completely unexpected, and magical moments are unplanned, just simply.
Yeah, the best moments are unplanned, I guess.
Yeah. All right, Danny.
Another side note, one of my favorite moments from the KPH days was we were doing that lingo game, but that lingo game does have a few bugs in it where words would show up which really aren't words at all. And there was one time when me and a guy were playing each other, and it was PILO blank, and I'm thinking it's got to be pilot. No, it didn't take.
I remember that very well. The gag reel's still on my channel.
Yeah, that's right. You can go find it.
Yes.
And we were going Pylor, Pyloy, Pylol, Lol, PILOL. We're just going through the alphabet at this point. We're all laughing our ass off, and I think I forgot what the winning word. The winning word wasn't even a word. We were just going through the alphabet, and that letter was it.
Yes.
And we won.
I remember that vividly. Your buddy Adrian was a part of that as well.
Yeah.
And that never made it to air, and we did not count that as an official episode. But boy, that was one of the funniest damn things I've ever been a part of in my life.
Incidentally,
I didn't know that was never aired, but
yeah.
Well, we didn't air the episode, but we did. I did cut out the gag reel, and I aired it as a video all on its own, and it's hilarious.
Okay. David. Okay, David. I'm going to ask the next 2 questions, then you do the last one. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So, Kevin, going back to the sports, is there any particular sports highlight or winning moment that has been a favorite of yours, of a certain team or anything?
Wow. I would have to say that the biggest moment that I can remember did not come from my team, actually. You got to go back to 2001, the World Series, Yankees, Diamondbacks.
Oh, yes. I know.
Yeah. And 9/11 had just happened, and we were kind of all living our lives in a daze. Like, what do we do now? Is it okay to go back doing what we were doing before? Should we even put a smile on our faces? Nobody knew what to do.
Yeah.
It was a very difficult time in our lives. And even I was skeptical. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know that baseball should be brought back. I didn't think we deserved to be entertained ever again without feeling guilty, survivor's guilt. You guys may be a little too young to remember this, but it was a very trying time in our country, which unfortunately a lot of people seem to have forgotten about.
I wasn't around, but I know what happened. And the other thing that was scary that happened from Boston was the Boston bomb in 2013. I still remember that happening.
I do too. But to finish the answer to the question, first of all, the 2001 World Series was a classic. Won all 7 games, and I was rooting for the Diamondbacks. I was just by nature not a Yankees fan. And had they won the World Series, I'd have been happy for them.
I think everybody won.
Because I'm sure the city of New York would have loved it. But when Luis Gonzalez hit that game-winning base hit in left center field off Mariano Rivera, it was I remember how crazy everybody went. I mean, absolutely crazy. I lost my mind. I think a lot of people who were watching that night lost their minds. Just, that sense of happiness and joy that really baseball can really give to you. And that's one of the reasons I love the game so much. No matter what's going on in life, they always find a way to be there for you. They tried to be there during World War I, World War II, and all this, during, the days with players being drafted, going to fight in the war and stuff like that. 9/11 was no different. COVID pandemic, no different. Baseball's always been there for us, and it's a big reason why it's a national pastime. So when I saw that, it was not only for me the greatest moment that I've seen in sports, and I've seen other great moments too, don't get me wrong, but it was a very sentimental favorite. And I'll add one more story to that. Also happened in 2001. I'm not the biggest NASCAR fan in the world. It's my kickoff to spring, though. I'll watch maybe the first 4 or 5 races of NASCAR before shifting to baseball. That's like my start of spring because I want spring to get here as quickly as possible.
Well, there's also the Kentucky Derby or whatever that second-minute sport rate.
The Kentucky Derby does not take place until May, but
oh, okay.
Anyhow, 2001 was also the year that Dale Earnhardt had passed away at Daytona. And where I grew up, you were either on Team Earnhardt or Team Jeff Gordon. And I was a Jeff Gordon fan, pissed off a lot of people. But whatever. I didn't really care. I just had a friend who liked Jeff Gordon. I was like, fine, I'm a Jeff Gordon fan too. Just like that. But I felt terrible when Earnhardt passed away. And then what happened was he owned 2 stock cars. Actually, he owned more than that, but he owned the 2 stock cars that finished first and second at the Daytona 500. Michael Waltrip won the 500. Dale Earnhardt Jr. finished second. Dale Earnhardt Sr. did not have the horses to make a late run and win the 500 himself. So he stayed back and played defense until he ran up head on into a wall and wound up dying, which was so sad. But what I remember most, though, this was like 2 months before 9/11 happened, was and any diehard NASCAR fan knows the story. When NASCAR returned to Daytona later that year in July, I think it was like 4th of July weekend during the Pepsi 400. In the last 5 laps, Dale Earnhardt Jr. was in 6th place. And in 5 laps, and this sounds easy, but it's not, he went from 6th to 1st. And then out of nowhere comes Michael Waltrip. Okay? And Junior winds up winning the race. Michael Waltrip pushes him home in 2nd place. And the celebration was one that I think had everyone crying. They're in the infield. They're in the infield near the start-finish line, just celebrating, just jumping around, acting fools and all this. And then Michael Waltrip and Dale Earnhardt Jr. get on top of the car. They're hugging, and it was just it was a sensational, wonderful memory. And those are 2 of the most exciting memories and I'm all for sentimental stuff. So that's probably why I like those a lot better than others. There are other great moments. And people do argue with me about this. What about Joe Carter? What about this? What about that? I'm like, you asked me the question. That's my answer. You can have yours, and I don't disagree.
Yeah, exactly.
As someone that's not very big into sports, I guess the biggest sports moment I remember is when the St. Louis Blues won the Stanley Cup, because everyone was going nuts, fireworks were going off, everyone was, partying all night.
Well, St. Louis is no stranger to winning championships. I mean, look at the Cardinals, for gosh sakes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They've won quite a few.
Yeah.
I think you had one more for me, Danny.
One more question. Yeah. So I know that the a little sitcom that was on for 12 years on CBS called The Big Bang Theory is one of your favorite shows.
Absolutely is, yes.
So how did that happen?
This is a good story. I had this friend that I went to high school with. Her name was Rebecca. I had fallen on some tough times, and I became a roommate of hers. She liked The Big Bang Theory. I'd only heard of it, and I wasn't really interested in seeing it because when I heard who was in it, I was like, "Oh, great, recycled actors from Roseanne," another show I wasn't a big fan of. Because Johnny Galecki, who played Leonard Hofstadter in Big Bang, he was David Healy on Roseanne. Sarah Gilbert, who played Leslie Winkle on Big Bang, she played Darlene Connor in Roseanne. Laurie Metcalf, who played Sheldon's mom on Big Bang, was Jackie on Roseanne. So I was like, "Oh, great! It's like Roseanne, but with nerds." I don't want to see this.
Roseanne by itself was bad enough.
Well, there are a lot of people who like the show, but anyhow. So I don't know what happened. This one day, Rebecca was watching it, and I just kind of sat down and watched it with her. And she said, "Well, here's the first season. Go home and watch it, or you can go to your room and watch it." I was like, "Okay." So I started watching, and I became a huge fan. And I own all 12 seasons on DVD. And I know people would not expect this of me, being the big sports fan I am. But yeah, I'm a huge Big Bang Theory and Young Sheldon fan as well.
Oh yeah, Young Sheldon.
Interesting. But I want to get back to the sports moment. As for the favorite sport moments for me, probably the most unbelievable one would have to be the Patriots Falcons Super Bowl, the 28-3 comeback.
I don't know any self-respecting football fan who doesn't remember that, and I'm sure there are those who would prefer to forget about it. But nobody's going to forget about that.
And how fitting that Matt Ryan also this year blew a 33-0 lead. Like, this is coincidence, but I will never forget that Super Bowl. And probably my other favorite memory was when the Red Sox won in 2018, the World Series, because that was one of my favorite Red Sox teams ever. So, that's probably one of my other favorites. Now here is the final question right here that we always ask. Was the Will Smith slap Chris Rock real or fake? The slap.
I initially thought it was fake, but then after hearing all the reports that came out and stuff, I was convinced pretty quickly that it was real. So my answer would be real.
I mean, they haven't talked to each other since, so
I don't even think they never really were the best of friends before that, anyway.
probably.
And well, I think it was real for two reasons. One, I feel like Will's voice was way too angry, even though he thought it was funny at first, but then when Jada looked at him like, no, that wasn't funny, man. You gotta go up there and defend me. He shifted into fucking whatever mode real quick, and then his voice got to that high pitch when he said, "Keep his name out of your mouth," and his voice was that high. And the second reason I think it was real is because now, if this was concocted by the producers of the Oscars or somebody to boost ratings, and they approached them with it, I feel like Will would have done it for the publicity. But I feel like if they went to Chris with that idea, Chris would have said, "Nah, get somebody else." I feel like Chris would be smart enough to turn that down because, yeah, Chris is cool.
Chris is cool.
Hey, I like them both. I like them both.
You ever seen the TV show Everybody Hates Chris, David?
No.
It's a good show. It's about it's a fictionalized account of Chris Rock's childhood in I think it's New York, somewhere in New York in the 1980s.
Well, speaking of New York, I got this hat from New York last month when I went to
No,
New
I'm
York City.
sorry, in Brooklyn, Yeah.
Oh, okay. Other city. Well, that's where I
Well,
went last month. So you have any other questions, Danny, that you want to ask, or is that it?
Nah, I think I'm good.
You have anything else you want to say, Kevin? Or want to promote anything?
Yeah, I happened to see the interview with my good buddy Brandon Scruggs that you did, and very well conducted, by the way, I might add. I would be remiss if I did not leave this this interview tonight without acknowledging Brandon, who has been a driving force in my life for the last 5 years.
Yeah, tell us about your experience with them as your partner, as your partnership with YouTube on my end.
Well, I met him back in 2018. I don't think he really thought much of me back then because I was kind of standoffish back in those days, more showing off more than being standoffish. And I did not realize what a really, really good person he was until I went through some hardships in my life about a year later. And our friendship just kind of grew from that. It was probably one of the best things to ever happen to me, if not, well, it's one of the best things. The best thing that ever happened was my son being born. And
he has a YouTube channel, right?
Pardon?
He has a YouTube channel, right?
Who does?
Your son?
He does, yes. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Andy Roo Gamer. And our relationship just kind of grew and grew. And then when he announced his intentions to get married, which I thought would never happen because he and Sonny had already been together for like 10 years. I was like, if these guys aren't getting married, they never will. And they finally did. And I had the honor of officiating their wedding, which Brandon has been. Excuse me?
How did he get that job?
How did I get the job of marrying them?
Yeah.
When they announced their intentions to get married, I felt compelled to get them something for their wedding, which is what people would do typically.
Yeah.
And Brandon insisted that they didn't need anything. They didn't want anything. They've been together for 10 years. They've already got everything they need. And I was like, I'm not leaving it at that. So I was hanging out with a friend one day, and she had been in a bad mood. And so we were just kind of hanging out, talking, playing some board games and whatever else, and drank a little. Not much, but well, they drank more than I did. But I don't know why, but all of a sudden we got on the subject of their wedding. My friend and her wife. And I got a chance to look at the photos, which were beautiful. They got married outdoors, and it was in the fall. The leaves were changing, beautiful. And I was kind of flipping through the pages, and I happened to see the minister of that wedding ceremony, and I was like, "Wait a minute, isn't that your brother?" It's like, "Yeah, he got ordained so he can marry us." And I said, "Wow, that's awesome." And then the more I thought about it, I was like, you just gave me an inspiration. So I became ordained, and I got a hold of Brandon, and I said, well, you told me not to get you anything, and I am still going to get you something, but here's what I've done. I am now an ordained minister. I'm licensed to do weddings. I will do yours free of charge. I can at least offer that to you as my wedding gift to you. Talk to your fiance about it and get back to me. If you say no, no hard feelings, that's fine. I was expecting them to say no, honestly, because I figured they had like a local pastor or somebody, and that would have been fine. But I wanted to do something for them. I did not want them to think that I was some cheapskate who was just going to show up at their wedding and eat their food. And that was what I came up with. And so they thought about it. I get a call, I think the next day. And it's Sonny, his fiance on the other line going, "We want you. We want you." I got teary-eyed when she told me that because I wasn't expecting it, one. And two, it was a tremendous honor. And
that probably changed her life.
I don't know that it's so much changed their life as it did their last name, but
I meant your life. Like it changed your life.
Quite honestly, yes, it did. It changed a big part of my life, actually, because first of all, I had already had this cemented friendship with Brandon. I knew Sonny, sort of. I mean, we just didn't talk that much. And I went down there a few months before the wedding to check out the facility in which they would get married, the venue, which was awesome. It was a 50s bar. It was so cool. And I got to start meeting members of their respective families. I met Brandon's mom. I met Sonny's brother and sister-in-law. And I just, they fell in love with me. I fell in love with them. And I think the biggest part, the biggest thing that really changed my life was the fact that the day of the wedding, they, to a person, said that I was part of their family, and we're bonded now. And for a guy who doesn't have family to speak of, it's it's hard to talk about. It's hard to talk about with a straight face because they've done so much for me by not having to do much. And
all you had to do was
I'll always be thankful to them for that. So yeah, they're very important to me.
All you had to do was ask, and you got your answer. And shout to Brandon. I want to thank him for doing an interview with me for the last one of 2022, which I've done a lot of interviews that year. And I really hope that I can do more this year because I mean it's gonna be a little bit tricky. But I hope I can find more people. That's my goal. And I also want to thank him for also making the MPT channel that he's been doing for a very long time. And he's done well for the game show community. I put in my opinion, and I think everybody can agree with that. He's done a lot of great projects for the game show community. And big shout out to him. And also thanks for letting me also host Whammy on his channel. So I don't know if you saw the episodes of Whammy, Kevin, but
I did.
What do you think of my hosting?
Pretty good. I have to say that. The only thing I would work on, and this is not a bad thing because I had to learn it myself, inflection. Okay. I'd work on my inflection if I were you. More energy, more excitement. Don't let your lungs be shy, but don't scream at the top of your lungs either. Inflect. That's what I would do if I were you.
I think when Danny does his game shows, he's a little bit quiet from time to time. I think for Danny over here, but.
Are you talking about announcing or what?
No, hosting.
Oh yeah, I'm done.
Well, it applies to announcing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, this is funny. I briefly had my own lingo series, right before the pandemic. So it was in 2020, but before the pandemic, and we shot a little pilot at the end of 2019. And David was the announcer for the pilot, but when we went to air, David was fired as the announcer. I didn't have an announcer. I just put the theme music in, and David, he was a bit livid, but it's okay.
Hey, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad, David. People in the broadcasting industry get fired all the time.
Yeah. I mean,
and 3 years later, we're still doing the same shit. So what does that tell you?
Plenty.
That's true. Have you watched my channel from time to time, Kevin? Like, have you seen my game show videos?
When I can.
Mhm.
You know, I'm a pretty busy guy. You know, I work upwards of 60 hours a week. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm a trial junkie, which is one of my
Yeah,
lesser known hobbies. So I get pretty immersed in that. So I don't have time to check everybody's stuff out. I don't even have time
yeah.
to check my son's stuff out all the time too, and he knows this. So I
Mhm.
try I try when I can. But yes, I've seen some of it. Yes.
Well, whenever when you do have the time, if you wanna work on, do something on my channel in the future, like we can talk about it on another time. You know,
Sure.
if you want, um, because I want to add more people onto here. The W1000 Network is about growing each other's channels. Is about adding more people on. You know, basically for this W1000 Network channel is about having fun. This is why I do content. This is why I don't do this for the views. I do this. I do these for the fans, and I do these uh to have fun. So that's why I do these content.
Same here.
Um,
And of course, who
and
knows who's listening? Maybe I'll get discovered again.
Uh,
yeah, that can happen.
Good.
Um, and maybe discovered for another you know career, a path to another career. Um,
It's a possibility. I hope to get back into it sometime in the next year or two. I'd be happy with just finding a local high school somewhere in Podunk, Ohio, and do their high school basketball every season. I'd be happy with that.
what what is your dream job? If like what is your dream job that is like your goal in life?
I always wanted to be the voice of the Cincinnati Reds. I wanted to
Uh,
replace Marty Brennaman one day. And then when I realized it was out of reach and I had other commitments that I had to do, um, that was obviously out the window. And
yeah,
it was going to be tough to get that job anyway because Marty never retired until 2019, and the young man who took his place, I'm not a fan of, but by 2019, I was already busy doing other stuff in life. But that was my job. That was my dream job,
yeah.
was to replace Marty Brennaman as the radio voice of the Cincinnati Reds. I would love to get back into that one day.
I would love to see you on a. I would love to see you announcing sports again.
I hope I get to. Even if, like I said, even if it's a small D4 school uh,
Hmm.
out in the country, and
Yeah, definitely watch.
I wouldn't care. I'd be happy with it. They could,
Yeah.
they could pay me by feeding me a couple of meals. I'd be happy.
And before we finish this off, I think it'll be appropriate for you to tell your shenanigans with Mr. Salt.
Say what?
Mr. Salt.
I'll
Tell
how,
tell us about that before we end this. Because
back in
I know you told me this before.
back in 2017, I was a member of a Discord group, and so was Nels. So was Brandon Scruggs. So were a few others. And I only knew Nels by name and reputation. I never actually met him until I want to say, I don't know, a few weeks into Brandon's first season of Sale of the Century, where I had a successful late run, good enough to land me in his championship game.
Mm.
And it was me versus Nels versus somebody else. I can't quite recall who it was, but it was the first time I ever met him. And again, I only knew him by name at that point. So when he came on, and he billed himself as America's sweetheart, which he does today. And I was like, yeah, right. And he's not. With all due respect, he is not America's sweetheart. And I said, well, you must be the famous Nels. I'm Kevin. Nice to meet you. Instead of saying, hi, nice to meet you too, before this championship game, he says, I'm going to win, gummit. That's all he said. And you better beep that out. Yeah. And as fate would have it, I won that game, won the championship, and he was beyond upset. And that's what started the rivalry. And now, I should state for the record, I do not hate him. I don't dislike. Well, that's not true. There are times I really do dislike him, and I'm sure the feeling's mutual. But at the end of the day, if he needed anything, I'd be there for him. And I've offered to help him out in certain situations. Most recently, when the country was in unrest, when the whole George Floyd thing went down, because that happened in Minneapolis, right where Nels was living at the time. I offered them money to buy bus tickets and come on to my place, hang out for a while until things died down. He didn't take me up on that. Instead, he went to an aunt's place outside of the city. It's like, well, as long as you get away from the city. Yeah. So I dislike the guy. He dislikes me. But if he needs me, I'm there.
He's like a brother in a way.
Sure.
Or a little brother.
Brandon Scruggs is my brother.
Yeah. So that is gonna be it for this episode of 3000 Hangouts with this interview of WKPH Cincinnati himself, Kevin Henry.
My time is your time, David.
That's it. And I want to thank everybody for watching, and I will see you all next time. Remember to be yourself and be real. See ya. Don't forget to subscribe to the 3000 Network for great more content like this one.